Hello, my name is Maria Bezubova and you're at my channel Fertilizers Jazz. Here we talk about events, trends, technologies in the world of fertilizers and agriculture. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, and let's jazz. With today's video, we start our regular quarterly mini-series of meetings with brilliant market analysts to share their insights and forecasts for the quarter ahead. Today, I'm thrilled to start this discussion with the hottest topic, of course, which is urea. And in order to do that, I am happy to host again a super cool guest, Deepika Thapliyal, Deputy Managing Editor for Fertilizers at ICIS. I am very glad to welcome you, Deepika, and thank you very much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Maria. Thank you for having me on your show.
Deepika, Q3 that's just finished was like, I would say, a roller coaster for urea market, as usually full of events. What do you think were the most important ones that formed the face of Q3 and will influence situation in the last quarter of this year?
For urea, I would say the most important events actually were from Asia. It was all about India and China this time. And with nothing else really moving anywhere else or very little happening globally. The first major event or events were Indian tenders. We had quite a few. We've had last 3 tenders. India's purchased 5.5 million tons of urea. So a lot of urea is going to arrive on the Indian shores in the next 2 months or so, or in the current month as well. So that was the one big event, or I would say events, because every time there was an Indian tender, market stabilizes. In fact, even finds some support, and in some cases even goes up. Then the Indian tender is done, and then the market cools off again. So we've had this up and down in the last 3 tenders. But it is clear that the Indian demand is much higher than expected. It's more than what everyone else was expecting. So that has definitely lent support to the market at a time where nobody else is really buying, and that's not surprising. Affordability is such an issue in almost every market for farmers. So that's the one big event I would say. And the second big event again is China. They decided that they would relax their export policy, which was expected. Initially, they banned India from the list and they said no exports to India. But in July and August, they allowed exports to India. So after that, we've seen this big influx of Chinese urea going to India in the last 2 tenders. So if you say between January to August, Chinese exports were about 1.4 million tons. But in the last 2 tenders alone, if you look at the numbers that will come for September, October, and maybe even to some extent in November, they've exported as much as 1.5, 1.6 million tons just in these 2 months to India alone. So that's a lot of urea that's gone to India. And obviously that's cut into the market share of other producers. Russia's not been able to place as much tons as they would have liked into Indian tenders. Again, this Chinese influx of urea coming into other key markets as well, like Brazil, etc., that has impacted, say, Iranian producers whose usual markets are now very competitive. So I think these 2 events have greatly shaped Q3, and the Chinese supply definitely put downward pressure on the market.
Yeah, exactly. Indian tender seems to be the only factor that actually drives the global activity, as you said. And the fresh one was just announced last week. Frankly, I was expecting it to appear a bit later, but I think Indians decided to play safe in this case and make sure that all the tons will arrive in time now and no more hiccups occur as it happened at the beginning of the year. So what is your expectation about the results of this tender in terms of both volume and price level? Indians are looking for 2 million tons. Do you think they will get all 2 million tons?
I think, again, they should easily get 2 million tons because the shipment period till middle of December is pretty long shipment period. So they should have no problems getting those tons. And also there are so many producers under pressure and they need to move the inventory. If you look at the Russians itself, prilled and granular, they haven't sold a lot in the last month or so. So there's a lot of pent-up inventory that needs to be shifted from the producer side. So I don't think they'll have any problem in buying this 2 million tons. I also think they will buy the 2 million because stock levels in India are still below expected or below what they should be. Very rough numbers. And, for stocks in India, we need to wait for confirmation to come. But right now, our estimate is Indian stocks are anywhere between 4.1 to 4.5 million tons. That I would say is not ideal because at the current rate, comfortable levels would be about 7 million tons. So although they've bought a lot and a lot of urea will arrive, on the stock front, they are still behind expectations. And this is coming at a time when October, November, December, even January 2026 are supposed to be very good month for urea sales. People are expecting that Rabi demand or the winter demand in India will be higher than the previous years. So I think they can't take a chance. They will need to buy. On prices, again, still too early to say because we almost have how many days? Almost 10 days to go for the Indian tender. So I would say in general, people estimate the price could be anywhere between 410 CFR, 415 CFR. Some people even say it could be lower if some news comes from China on export window extension or something like that. So a lot of question marks on the price, but on the buying pattern, definitely India will buy as much as it gets, or at least about 2 million tons.
I see. And how much more product do you think India will need? Because as you just said, the uptake is very healthy, very good. Should we expect any more tenders until the end of the year, or perhaps it will go to the next year already?
I still think, although a lot of people are saying this might be the last tender, I still think there will be one more tender we are going to see from India because they will look at what the demand will be for the winter, how sales are in November. But I think we will see one more tender, probably November or December, because they will need to stock up for winter. So one more. So again, very robust demand, much higher than what anyone was expecting. They've had another good year of monsoon. Indian farmers don't need to worry about affordability. They're the only farmers who don't need to worry about affordability for urea because it's so heavily subsidized. So in that case, I think we might see one more tender after this one.
I see, I see. You already started discussing the demand side of things, starting from India. I propose that we move towards other markets, which will be important also in Q4. So usually it's an important time in general for several large markets which start their purchases. They step into the market during Q4. But this year is different. As you mentioned, affordability is a very significant issue for many buyers. So how do you think how it will play out this year? Which markets will be in focus for Q4 in terms of consumption? And what will be their consumption patterns?
I think November, December, Maria, it's all going to be about your market, Europe. We have to see how buying starts there. As of now, our expectations are they should. It makes sense for them to come and try to stock up and buy more before the CBAM regulations coming to effect from the 1st of January. I mean, what is going to happen with CBAM is such a question mark, but it doesn't look like those regulations are going to get delayed. It looks like as of now, it will come into effect from the 1st of January. And people are, and very rightly so, worried about the extra costs that come with it, the other technical issues, calculation, so many things that you need to figure. So I think November, even December, we might see more activity from Europe and much more than maybe what we've seen in the previous years as people try to stock up. And we saw this before the tariffs happened as well. Before the Russian tariffs came into effect 1st of July, there was so much buying for Russian fertilizer in June itself or in the previous months. So in that case, we are seeing this pattern that before any big news, Europeans do step in and they want to be comfortable. Although domestic production is running well, probably it will even increase in Europe. So that way, the dependence will go back to European production when it comes to European buyers. But on the import front, probably we will see some increase. So I think Europe is the one to watch mainly. Of course, India, we have to keep an eye if there's another tender, how much they buy. And I would say these are the only real big markets where we could see some changes because Brazil will keep buying as it always does. And those prices will always have a lid because, again, affordability is such a big issue in Brazil. Ammonium sulfate still very popular. Farmers prefer that. They get the sulfur free. And like someone was telling me, even in case of logistics, some people say it's better to do AS than urea. So, I mean, it doesn't look like this AS story is going anywhere in Brazil. They will keep buying more AS. They will keep preferring more AS because it's cheaper. So I think Brazil is not really one market we can really bank on for any kind of shift. It's behaving in a very expected pattern. So yeah, I think Europe is the one market to watch to see if demand comes back or not before CBAM.
I see. Thank you. The other very important part of supply-demand equation is always the institutional factor, the institutional measures that can either support or vice versa, make trading activities much, much more difficult. And of course, we have several important things to discuss here. So first of all, you already mentioned tariffs for Russian fertilizers in Europe. So it is already 3 months that passed after this regulation was imposed. What is the effect of that? Have you seen actually any significant effect in the market? And what will be the effect, the consequences for Q4 and onwards?
On the pricing, no, we haven't seen an impact because I guess like we have spoken about this before, it was already digested. Buying was done before. Also, it's the off season for European buyers, so not much moved. But on the trade flows, definitely things have changed. Russian exports to Europe really dropped. The July Eurostat numbers, we only have numbers till July. So it was just for 1 month after tariffs, and there was hardly any exports from Russia to Europe. So those numbers really dropped. And I guess, yeah, trade flows have definitely changed. But I think overall, the tariffs, I think, are going to have the impact that they wanted to have. European production should go up. Dependence on European product will once again go up. And we are going to see a shift in pattern. Russia will move more material towards Latin America, India, in times when they can get better netbacks. I think they will rely on Europe only when there's no other market anywhere else. And I guess opportunistic exports will also happen because there's enough material everywhere. Nigeria, Arab Gulf, even Southeast Asia, sometimes you hear, that them sending product to Europe. So I think it's definitely had an impact. And we're already seeing early signs when it comes to data, but we need to wait for more confirmed numbers to come out.
I see. And do you think, or maybe you have heard some first news about that, that Europe might let some other, let's say, suppliers to enter EU, taking away, for example, additional tariffs to substitute these volumes? Is it a discussion at all or not?
Maria, very interesting that when they issued the tariffs on Russia, that time this was very widely mentioned. But since then, it's just died. This whole talk of will they remove extra 6.5% tariff for urea, say for the Arab Gulf or for Nigeria. So I think it's just a case only Egypt remains tariff free, and of course Algeria for most markets, and even Uzbekistan to some extent. And these will keep coming in. Obviously, for Egyptian producers, it's very good news because they can keep selling at better netbacks to Europe. But no, we haven't heard any news recently about any tariffs being removed for any other origin.
CBAM, you already mentioned, huge change for the whole market, and I believe there are more questions rather than answers. So I would like to ask you only one thing about that. What do you think? What is the main uncertainty, let's say, related to January 1? What is that uncertainty that everyone wants to understand in order to be prepared to this change? Because, as you said, it is inevitable and it will come.
Yeah, I think, Maria, the biggest uncertainty is nobody is sure how to calculate the costs. Whoever you ask, even if it's the biggest producers, the buyers, anywhere in the world, including European producers, non-European producers, nobody is sure, on how this is going to proceed with costs. And I think that is where we are going to struggle initially, even us as a price reporting agency. We are going to have numbers, but then everyone is different. There will be a high emitter in Egypt. There will be a low emitter in Egypt. So between these producers, how do we price it? Maybe we have a range. Maybe we keep some extra, margin for costs. So all these things, it's mainly about how do you calculate prices. And I think that is what is worrying everyone on how things are going to be priced. And we still don't have answers. I think we just have to appreciate and accept that market will take time or pricing will take time. And initially, maybe we'll not get there, but eventually there will be a pattern that will be formed and price assessment will become easier.
Yes, yes, definitely. I fully agree. And just as a comment that I heard from many players in the market, you mentioned that there might be some upfront stocking, let's say, behavior. Yes and no. Why no? Because trading companies are afraid to stay with some product which afterwards might be somehow priced the way that it will not be competitive anymore. Because indeed, very different emitters might we see as a result, of these calculations potentially from, comparing Uzbekistan, for example, and Egyptian producers or some other producers. So as far as I understand now, it's really a question if to bring or not to bring in order not to make, to be caught in this situation. But in any case, it is coming, so we all will need, to adapt and to proceed with this new regulation. So I propose to move to the supply side. You already touched it a bit when we discussed Chinese behavior. Of course, China is the main factor that influenced and will be influencing, as you said. Do you think that Chinese are indeed going to extend their export window to November, maybe December even, because we see that domestic demand hasn't picked up yet. Still, they are waiting for the season. So what do you think? What will happen in terms of this window?
This is one market where there's absolutely been no clarity. In fact, the market is still 50-50 on what will happen tomorrow. That is, I think, by the middle of the week, all the Chinese producers should be back by the 8th of October from their national holiday. So there are expectations that there could be a push because this is the last chance for China to export anything this year. And the last Indian tender is when they will want to do maybe a similar number. There's been rumors about 500,000 or 600,000 tons of additional quotas might be allowed. Some people say maybe there won't be additional quotas. It'll just the window from 15th of October, which is the last date to clear customs. That could get extended a little bit. And maybe that'll give people scope to move product. Again, the 50-50 chance of it going either way. We might see in the past, we've seen despite the domestic market doing very badly and nobody really buying, still the government hasn't, moved a finger and allowed any exports. But this time, of course, it has been more lenient. So maybe there will be something. But as of now, it's just, it's everyone just guessing because no one has a clue how this is going to move. And the fact that they've been on holidays doesn't help because there's been no information that we have that's come. So I think only in the next few weeks will we have any kind of clear indication. And most of the time, I don't even find then that there is any clear indication. Only when you see the cargoes that go to India do you actually get to know what the policy is. So it's always work in progress.
Right. Another uncertainty, unfortunately, in this uncertain world, I would say. And what is your view upon the European production? You already mentioned that you think it will increase, of course, because of the CBAM and all the other regulations. But in terms of cost, what do you think will be the cost situation? Because right now, gas cost seems to be quite on, let's say, moderate, not low, but at least on the moderate level. And the injections into in front of the winter seem to be quite healthy for Europe. So what do you think? What will face European industry?
So actually, just for this, I was asking my colleague who's great when it comes to gas and expectations. And she was telling me that for Q4, the values are expected to be stable for gas, mainly dependent on temperatures, depending on how temperature is across Europe, or in case something geopolitically happens, unpredictable again. But overall, gas prices are expected to remain more or less stable during the quarter. So there's no big worry at the moment of prices going up. And because of that, we expect that European production will continue because the margins are still decent, like you said, or moderate. And also, again, maybe the focus is once again going to European buyers becoming more dependent on local production. So I think we could see a case of some more production coming in. And also with CBAM and everything now coming in from next year, everything points to more encouraging local producers actually. So I think we will see an increase in production in Europe, and it's going to go back to, the years ago when most of European buyers would buy from Europe and not really import bulk of their volume.
Yes, indeed. Let's see how it plays out because there are a lot of uncertainties and questions on this way. Deepika, thank you so much. It was, as usually, super insightful and super helpful. I, as always, wish you a very good quarter ahead. And I hope to see you here in a quarter from now to discuss trends at that time. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Maria. Let's see what Q4 brings for us.
Indeed. Thank you for watching. As usually, I will leave all credentials of Deepika and ICIS in the comments. Please let me know in the comments which other questions related to urea market you would like me to uncover, and I will be glad to do so with Deepika next time. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, push the bell in order not to miss any updates, and see you soon.